My name is Aiden Davis, and this is my mentor, Mr. Jeff Island, and he's going to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Jeff Island. I'm the Assistant Chief of Police with the City of Sims Police Department. Been in law enforcement for almost 21 years. The majority of the time was at the Sheriff's Office, but I've been in Sims for 3 years now.
All right, so I have 10 questions prepared for you, and we are going to get right to that.
Okay.
So, number one, can you describe the early forms of police equipment and how they differ? Describe the early forms of police equipment and how they differ from what we see today.
Basic early forms of police equipment included nightsticks, revolvers, and handcuffs. There's very little protective equipment for the officer. The equipment now has moved toward tasers, body cameras, more modern firearms, and more sophisticated communication systems. Even early forms of policing didn't have, radios to take.
So the earlier forms resemble more of a militia than an organized group.
Pretty much. I think that was the basic concept, was more of a militaristic, because that's all they knew then, before it evolved into the more modern technology and the less lethal type devices we have now.
Makes sense. Right. And second question, what key technological advancements have most significantly impacted police equipment over the years?
The big one that we're seeing more and more throughout different agencies, both large and small, are the body-worn cameras. It adds a bit of transparency between the department and the public. Drones are being used more often to overhead surveillance. You can even insert drones into buildings to clear buildings before you send personnel inside the building. Automated license plate readers, the LPRs, they're constantly scanning tags. Less lethal weapons such as tasers, pepper spray, beanbag rounds, devices to take someone into custody without a lethal form in order to, enhance public safety.
So now, sorry, were you done?
No, yeah, go ahead.
So nowadays there's a larger focus on, well, obviously officer accountability, but the safety of anyone and everyone involved in such things.
Trying to take someone into custody using the least amount of force possible in order to avoid injuries and potential civil liability.
That's reasonable. Is that all you have to say on this question?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The next one. How have changes in crime trends influenced the evolution of police gear and tools?
There's an increased focus on personal protection. We all know violent crimes have increased the past few years, so it increased, levels of body armor to not only be resistant to handguns, but to rifles as well. Helmets, ballistic shields, due to the violent crime rates, going up, more protective equipment's been offered and made for police officers to protect themselves.
So pretty much that whatever demands the job may require have to be met, as things may get tougher, more tougher requirements are in place, or suppose the other way, things were to require less, I suppose you could say harsh measures, then less harsh measures would be needed.
Yes, law enforcement has to adapt to that. Therefore, violent crimes went down, then the level of safety would be, elevated, as far as officers wouldn't be required to have as much ballistic materials and protective shields and helmets and whatnot.
That's fair. On to the next question. Can you discuss any specific pieces of equipment that have undergone notable changes in design and functionality?
The biggest one I could think of are the patrol vehicles that we have now. When modern policing first came into effect, they took vehicles pretty much from the dealership, outfit them with blue lights and a siren, and they put them on patrol. Now you've got modern communication systems in there. You've got MDTs, mobile data terminals, which are the computers. The computers have access to NCIC. You can pretty much do anything inside your patrol vehicle that a dispatcher can inside a dispatcher's office. Vehicles are now are pursuit rated. They have different suspensions. They're lower to the ground. They're geared differently. Just for law enforcement. Some of them are actually equipped with night vision and thermal technologies as well. And a lot of them have the license plate readers attached to them, which is integrated into the MDT to the software.
Well, this is just my opinion, but that all sounds pretty impressive. Anyway, with that, we'll move on to the next question. What role does public safety perception play in the development and adoption of new police equipment?
Probably community trust relations. As body-worn cameras and lethal technology has come to play, is, I guess, taking down the aggressiveness of law enforcement, especially with body-worn cameras, because you are held accountable through your video. So I think community trust and relations is the big one that body-worn cameras are trying to improve.
And I suppose also there comes into play, like, I suppose, uniforms and what kind of, I guess, like physical features certain police vehicles may have. A suspect could think totally different things depending on what they see approaching them. Mm-hmm. And so I guess they really do have to take all that into account.
You have to take it into account. A lot of it is the uniform. A lot of people don't like the outer carriers, the vests on the outside of the uniform. It looks too militaristic. But it's a lot more comfortable for the officers. The outer carrier is a lot cooler in these hot environments. You want to be able to shed that outer carrier when you go inside and take a break. Versus having your body armor on under your shirt, and you're stuck with it. You're stuck with the heat all day. I've worn both of them, and of course, outer carrier is the way to go. As far as vehicles adapt to crime rates. Now you see more and more equipped with the pit bars on the front in order to disable vehicles during car chases and whatnot. But it's more along the lines of having to adapt to the crime rates.
And I suppose this isn't related to the question itself, but I mean, you could argue that it's really what matters more is how an officer would actually act rather than, what their appearance may be as far as their uniform or their vehicle. The actual manner in which the officer carries themselves is going to play a bigger difference anyway.
It's going to play a major role. Most people only deal with law enforcement, say, on a traffic stop. It may be the only time that this person has ever dealt with a police officer in their life. And the officer's attitude and demeanor affects the way that specific person thinks about law enforcement in general. So, yeah, this attitude, law enforcement attitude, the officer's individual attitude goes a long ways.
And that ties into the whole accountability aspect as well.
Yeah, body-worn cameras can hold you accountable.
With that, I suppose we'll go on to the next question. How has the integration of technologies such as body cameras and drones changed police practices and accountability? Well, since we kind of touched on that, I suppose you can kind of just summarize that a little bit.
Yeah, body cameras provide first-hand account of police interactions. It's live footage between you and the public. Drones are pretty much the same way. Drones can capture crucial evidence in real time to help with cases and circumstantial evidence.
Makes sense. What challenges do police departments face when adopting new equipment, both from a financial and operational perspective?
Well, from a financial perspective, new equipment costs money. A lot of the smaller departments don't have the budget to buy new equipment. Some departments that are larger do. They're lucky. Some smaller departments have to secure grants and federal funding to get this equipment. And from an operational perspective, when you do get the new equipment, or if you do get the new equipment, you got to keep in mind that now you have to train your personnel on new equipment. That costs money to train your personnel, and it can be time consuming as well.
This is unrelated, but these subjects are pretty interesting. Unfortunately, we only have a limited time with which we can discuss these things, but that's of no importance to the task at hand. For question number 8, in your experience, how does officer training adapt to new equipment and technologies?
when you get new equipment and new technology, you have to be hands-on with it. You have to set up training. You have to take the time to, I guess, work it into your budget to allow officers to come in on their off time to be trained in the new equipment. Put them in the right environment. For example, you're not going to take handgun training and spend half your day in class going over the functions of the firearm and all this and that. Yes, it's important, but you're not going to spend half a day on it. You're better off getting on the range and showing them how to work it.
I suppose I should ask, do you all also hire contractors and whatnot who are more familiar with these sorts of things?
Larger agencies do have a budget to hire contract employees. For an example, be the sheriff's office in Mobile. Sheriff's office has contract employees that know how to run advanced technology, whether it be tag readers, whether it be facial recognition, any other sort of things that have to do with, I guess, the latest technology trends. Because a lot of the guys at the sheriff's office have been there a while, so it would take them a while to catch up to the new technology.
Can you share any examples of how community feedback has influenced the choice of police equipment?
I think of course, we've already talked about body-worn cameras, but I think that has reduced officer-involved incidents tremendously because of the implementation of body-worn cameras, holding the officers accountable. A lot of officers deal with people in mental health crises throughout their shift, and the implementation of specific tools and training on how to deal with these people has come a long ways, and is now actually state mandated that every other year you have to train all your officers with at least a minimum 1 hour of training dealing with people in a mental health situation.
And for the final question, or the final official question, looking ahead, what do you envision as the future of police equipment, particularly regarding emerging technologies?
Not to be beating a dead horse, but body-worn cameras with AI technology. That seems to be, and I've heard this on 2 different training conferences, body-worn cameras with AI technology is the new trend. Axon, the company that owns Taser, has the Axon body cameras, and they're experimenting with AI with their body cameras now, to whereas you can upload the material from your body-worn camera, and it's actually writing narratives in your reports based off what's on that camera. So the officer don't have to touch keyboard other than to approve, and submit the report. I think they're trying to work the logistics out of that. How's that going to hold up in court when an attorney gets it and it's not in the officer's own words, but it's AI generated? So, but I think AI is going to play a major role within law enforcement.
That does make sense though, because if suppose an officer writes a report on their own body cam footage, there's always the potential for them to, create their own narrative or to skew events or all kinds of things. Whereas if it's more of a, I guess you could call it a third-party endeavor, there's less of a concern for them.
Yeah, mixing AI with body-worn cameras as far as writing the narratives for officers, I don't really agree to that. It does not take that long to write a narrative. Now, in the heat of moment, a lot of times you may forget certain small minor details while you're writing your narrative. A lot of guys will download their body camera footage and actually watch it. Like, oh, I remember that, and they'll implement that in their narrative. So body cameras do help tremendously. But as far as implementing AI with it, we got to see how that plays out. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I think that concludes the interview, and it was a pleasure working with you.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.